Often, the public is deceived by extremist animal rights organizations whose sole purpose is to spread their agenda of veganism. Often, they misrepresent animal agriculture and portray their propaganda as typical of the entire animal agriculture community. This video was created to open the gates of the ranching community and to allow the people to step inside our pastures and take a look at what happens beyond the fence. Roughly 2.5 million years ago, humans began to eat meat. Meat not only provided essential energy, but it was pertinent in evolution. Many scientists believe that the nutrients from eating meat enabled brain growth and allowed humans to achieve a higher intelligence level, which made us capable of creating tools. Tools then changed the human body. As we used more and more tools, our mouths began to change. Teeth reduced in size because we were able to use tools to harvest, cut, and cook our food, which made it easier to absorb essential nutrients.
I'm Debbie Lyons Blythe, and owner and operator of Blythe Angus here in the Flint Hills of Kansas. And we are surrounded here by a bunch of young female cows that we call heifers. These are bred heifers that are actually for sale. Our family raises these heifers and sells them to other cattle breeders out across the nation. But the reason that I am really proud of this area, I want to tell you a little bit about this land. A cattle rancher is a strong believer in environmental activism. I like to say that ranchers are the original environmentalists, because if we didn't take care of the land, then it wouldn't grow grass for these cattle. We're really, really blessed here in the Flint Hills that this grass has been here since the beginning of time. This is the same grass that the buffalo grazed on. The rock is really close to the surface, so the amount of subsoil is pretty low, and when they tried to tear it up to plow it and plant crops in it, they realized that the rock was just too close. So they ended up leaving this as the grass and realized that they could fatten cattle on it very easily. So we're really lucky that it is still the exact same grass. It's highly nutritious, but our job then is to manage this grass. One of the things that we have to do is kill the weeds in the grass. There are certain weeds that will take over a pasture. There's other weeds that actually we like because they will show you the health of the pasture. Sometimes if a weed is really, really prolific, you can tell whether your grass needs more nutrients or if it is being overgrazed, depending on which weeds are present. So we like to see the diversity in the grass. It's not just grass, but it also has a lot of weeds to it, and cattle can eat most everything we've got here.
Today, if you want to buy meat, it is much easier than even 100 years ago. You can head to the local grocery store and pick up a variety of meat products. Modern agriculture has allowed for such ease in our selection. Modern agriculture, however, is not factory farming. According to the USDA, 97% of all farms are family farms, where ranchers are able to work alongside family members to create a quality, wholesome, and nutritious product for you, the consumer. Producing cattle on family ranches is a tradition that goes back centuries.
One of the things that we do in the Flint Hills is we burn off the shrubs and trees. So in the spring, we will set fire to this whole area. This is 2.5 square miles of grass in this one pasture. And it's a really organized burn, so it's very safe, and obviously there's no cattle in here at that time. Here in the Flint Hills too, these grasses can grow, in a good year, they can grow taller than a person. And that's in a really good year when we're having lots of moisture. This year we're not having that. But correspondingly, the roots go down just as deep, if not deeper. And so they're actually really good at fixing carbon. You know, they talk about how trees will fix carbon, but these grasses are actually really good at fixing nitrogen and carbon into the soil.
Rolling acres of green grass. This is a common sight for the cow-calf producer. Beef cattle enjoy diets of lush, green grass, hay, and sometimes ranchers add feed to their diet. These extra nutrients from feed are essential for cattle while gestating and during the winter months when cattle need more energy to survive. Protein and minerals are essential in the diets of cattle, and antibiotics are key in the fight against pathogens in animal agriculture, and all are essential in keeping the animals healthy and well.
Sometimes I think consumers have a misperception of what we're doing out here on America's ranches. For example, the cattle that we have out right now are receiving an antibiotic every day. And that has gotten some pretty bad coverage in the press. I think some consumers misunderstand what we're doing and think we're using antibiotics to overcome improper conditions, and that's just not the fact at all on our ranch. Where we ranch in the middle of Kansas, a disease called anaplasmosis is endemic. It's a vector-borne, meaning mosquitoes and biting flies can carry it. And it's a disease that causes a cow to become severely anemic. Anemic to the point of where you can't really tell anything until that cow is so anemic that you put her under a little stress, like asking her to walk a mile to a new pasture and it's a hot day or something like that. And she's just liable to keel over because she cannot move enough oxygen to keep her tissue supplied, and she just dies. So what we do out here is put chlorotetracycline in our mineral so that those cows have access to that antibiotic during the summer vector season. We start usually about the 1st of April and they'll go to the 1st of November. And that antibiotic keeps that anaplasmosis under control so that those animals don't come down with that disease and don't die with it. And what I liken that to is if you were going into some area where malaria is endemic, you certainly wouldn't take yourself or take your kids into that area without prophylactic anti-malarial treatments. And that's the same thing we're doing for our cows out here. These are prophylactic treatments to keep them from coming down with anaplasmosis. And if you've ever seen anaplasmosis, oftentimes the first thing again you see is dead cows, unexplained dead cows as they meet some hotter times of the summer and can't handle that. And once you realize you've got an anaplasmosis problem in your herd, the treatment for it is so much more severe than the preventative process. You have to give them heavy-duty shots of antibiotics, 3 rounds of it, and when you administer antibiotics properly to cattle, let's say your average mother cow, 60 to 65 cc's of this antibiotic is required. That means I've got to do 6 to 7 injection sites. The antibiotic stings, so I've got to give that cow 6 to 7 pretty painful injections. I've got to come back a week later, do the same thing. I've got to come back a week after that and do the same thing. So the end result is a much higher usage of antibiotic to treat the condition rather than a very small dose of the antibiotic as prophylactic. And in my mind, that's the right thing to do by that animal. As a caretaker, if I can prevent the suffering of my animal, that's the way I need to go, rather than waiting for a problem to creep up or crop up on me and then having to treat that. I'm all about prevention and preventing the suffering rather than treating a problem that I've allowed to develop.
Antibiotics are administered long before the withdrawal deadline set by the FDA to ensure contaminants are left out of the food supply. Ranchers are hard-working Americans that are out in the heat of the summer and the cold of the winter, and animal agriculture challengers insist on producing false claims against them. One video has claimed that cattle are constantly bloated, and you may be asking yourself exactly what is bloat. Cattle are ruminants, and the rumen is like a stomach. The rumen is almost constantly moving to shift acid, move food particles, and expel gas from the digestive system. Bloat is when the rumen doesn't move and gas builds up, and eventually the animal is overcome by the overwhelming amount of gas. Bloat can cause the rumen to expand large enough that the lungs will stop functioning, and if this happens and the bloat isn't caught on time, the animal can die. Luckily, bloat doesn't occur very often, and with modern science, we have developed products to help prevent potential bloating problems. If cattle were bloated all the time, cattle would die extremely rapidly, and the beef community would be unable to survive. Ranchers and beef processors are becoming more and more concerned about animal welfare. They have even taken the initiative to create programs to educate ranchers and beef processors on current animal welfare standards. Companies like Cargill have also gone a step further by having a third party set up monitoring systems and act as a check system for Cargill to ensure they are surpassing animal welfare standards.
On our operation, we particularly pride ourselves in proper care of our animals. We're a start-to-finish operation, meaning we have cows and we calve those cows. You've seen some footage of those. We go ahead and we'll take those calves through weaning, and then we'll grow those calves for a little bit, meaning that's their time. They're kind of teenagers at that point. It's their time to put on some frame and size, and then we'll go ahead and finish cattle out, which is a more traditional grain finishing operation, and we retain ownership all the way on those calves through slaughter. We're founding members of a company called U.S. Premium Beef.
Now to the beef. Often beef is attributed by animal rights activists as being unhealthy. Well, here are some statistics which will prove them wrong. Over the past 5 to 10 years, consumption from animal fats has decreased, whereas vegetable fats have increased 180%. Yet, animal rights activists constantly blame meat for obesity. Where should we be looking, though? We should be looking at the rise of diabetes and the amount of sugar consumption that has skyrocketed in the past few years. Meat is healthy because it contains high-quality protein and a balance of essential amino acids. Lean beef contains 20 to 23% high-quality protein and is also an excellent source of absorbable iron. Cooked beef contains 40% of the recommended daily allowance of zinc and copper. Beef also contains 80% of the RDA for vitamin B12. Meat is very nutritious and provides essential nutrients for the human body that you don't have to get out of a container. We hope that you have found Beyond the Fence very informative and enjoyable. Ranching is a tradition and one that we in the beef community are proud to share and enjoy. Ranchers are hardworking, dedicated, and true blue to the core. We are constantly trying to provide a safe, quality, and wholesome product for you, the consumer. We are not only feeding a nation, but we are feeding a world, and the United States has one of the safest and most secure food supplies in the world. This video was created so that you could go beyond the fence and get the facts and our story so that you, the consumer, can make an educated decision after hearing from both sides.
And as you can see, these cows get really fat grazing these grasses. They're highly nutritious and they're really good grasses. And so I feel like, you know, I take good care of these cows, but I also work very hard to take care of the land for the good of the land. I hope that my ranch will be available for my kids to take over someday and my grandkids. And if I mistreat the grass or mistreat the land, then that's not going to be possible.